welcome to the Moringa School podcast. My name is Melissa.
I'm Victor Ireri.
I'm Igane.
Michelle Atieno.
And today we're here to talk about opportunities in tech and software for 2019. The trends that we've seen taking place, or the trends we foresee will be very, very big. Opportunities in terms of career development. If you're looking to transition, why is it a good time to get into tech or to develop your technology skills? Whether that's in terms of UI, UX, product management, big data, data science, Python programming, Java programming, iOS. Welcome everyone. So maybe we can start off with Victor. What trends do you foresee? Or how has 2018 been for you so far?
I think you can say 2018 has been mind-opening, eye-opening, whichever one you choose. Having spent my entire 2018 learning technology and programming, I say that it's definitely the future. And so coming into 2019, after the things that you have learned in 2018, you can see now it's clearer to see the holes that there is in the industry. And you can tell that in 2019, just like we were discussing before this podcast started, is iOS development for starters. Like for instance, in Kenya, and I think it can stretch even in Africa itself. There is definitely a deficiency, or is it an inadequacy? Nikitumia jina mbaya uta it out. And there's definitely that for iOS developers. We need Swift programmers. And Leo, you're saying something about employability of iOS developers, yeah?
Yeah. Basically, what I'm hearing is, if you're an iOS developer, there's no one who can retain you.
Yeah.
Because you're in such demand that they can't pay you enough to just stay at the company. So most of them are freelancing, and they do not stay without getting so many offers and jobs. I know somebody, a friend of mine, who has a tech company, and she's like, she herself only knows 5 iOS developers that she's always like trying to get them to build the work she's getting from her clients. And it's a good thing. I've heard people say, if I was to look at it from the other side, I've heard people say that iOS as a platform is kind of going down and it's really not needed in Africa because most people use Android. But how I answer that is, if you're looking maybe in the future, 10, 20 years, maybe you might be right. But currently iOS is still a major platform, and it's still in need. Every company that removes an application, even in Africa, has to have an iOS version of that application. So if there are very few iOS developers, it's just, it's a smart thing to get into.
And can you also say, for the people that are raising that sentiment that in Africa people use Android and you don't need iOS, I think it can be a fair advice to tell these people that at the moment they may have a point, may being the keyword, but beginning to code iOS right now will make you a pioneer. And by the time the 5 years is coming around and like now it is actually needed in Africa for iOS developers to be there, you'll be a senior iOS developer. You'll be the guy that young iOS developers, big companies will be coming to, like, we need someone with experience in iOS to do this for us. So at the end of the day, there's really no downside to learning iOS right now. It's just all good.
Definitely. And I would say if you want a global career, if you're looking to work outside of Africa, it's a plus to learn it. But I think my question is, what does it take to become an iOS developer? For example, you need a Mac, you need an iPhone or an iPad or any sort of Apple product to even test out your application. So how does one go about becoming an iOS developer in 2019?
In 2019, I saw you pointing at me, means you're directing that question to me. I cannot speak with certainty on this one, but from what I've heard, I don't own a Mac myself, so I can't learn Swift. But from what I've heard, it's really not that hard to learn. It's a bit harder than Python, but lower than Java, somewhere in the middle there. But resources-wise, there's more than enough resources to learn iOS right now. You go online, you go to Udemy, you go to Code Academy, yeah, and all of these websites. For $11, that's usually the standard price. You'll get a really, really good course online. And especially if you're coming from another language, you've been developing previously in your life, if there's something developers can attest is that learning a new language is really not that hard. It's usually easy to, at the end of the day, if the foundation is the same, you just learn. I believe it's also the case even with Swift and iOS. Yeah, so it should not be that hard. All you just need is basically the Mac and the iPhone.
And what's the best way to learn? Is it by building projects or apps or going over the syntax and semantics?
The best way to learn anything is by doing, regardless of what it is, regardless if it's Android, Java, web, everything, the best way to learn it is by actually building it. Just take a few moments to understand the basics, what's going on, and then from there get into building applications. Start with small and simple ones and keep increasing on the difficulty level depending on your comfort level and how much you want. But always push yourself, don't settle for your comfort level, of course.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and another way of, because you need OS X, but you can have a virtual machine. So with a virtual machine, basically, you don't really invest in a Mac.
What is a virtual machine?
A virtual machine, it's a segment of storage that you've set aside in which you can then input an operating system that is not the operating system that you're running. So it then becomes like its own computer. You can also have it online. It doesn't have to be on any space, any place where there is memory. You can create a virtual machine. So you can have it in the cloud. You can have it on your laptop. You can have it on your laptop and then connect your laptop to the internet and make sure, or a desktop. Have it on a desktop, connect it to the internet, and you'll be able to access it from anywhere as a machine, from any other machine. So you can even have all your work and everything on a desktop, and then you go somewhere else. All you need is just to get onto your laptop, get the IP address, connect it, log on, and you can access your machine from anywhere. In other words, if you don't have a laptop, you can...
Kind of like building a virtual server out of your own machine.
Thank you, yes. Yeah. So you can have a virtual machine in which you'll be able to install macOS or OS X and be able to build your applications. And it's quite something what you can do nowadays. Because basically what we've said is nothing stops you from doing anything. There's always a workaround. And the thing about it being in the space today is people have already done it before. And being in the space today, the information is accessible because everything is online.
Yeah.
So before, I remember that people, if you wanted to learn how to code, you buy a very big book, or you go to a library that has a very big book.
Yes.
And then you'll be reading and typing some stuff on the command prompt and reading, and it was very tedious and it took so much time. Right now, you're not limited to the resources of your nation, because before, if your nation had a library, one library or two that didn't have anything to do with code, you couldn't.
You can't learn code.
You were limited by your geography. Right now, you're not. So as we're talking about the spaces that are available for developers, we're not just talking for people who've coded. We're talking about anyone who's interested in making anything, whether you've coded before or not. You literally have the capacity to get online and build as close to whatever you want. Especially if we're talking about the space of iOS right now. When there is demand for a certain service, that is where you have the capacity to build things that aren't that great and to build on to what Victor's saying. So by the time that there's a flooding of people, you've made your mistakes when people tolerated your mistakes. So by the time other people come into the space and there's less tolerance of mistakes, you no longer make those mistakes.
You've already learned from
You've already learned from them, but you've still gotten paid even though your apps were glitchy because there was so much demand for what you're giving out.
You know, they say if you're coming in as a competitor in a new market, sometimes it's not always that you're coming in with more money, you're coming in with lessons. So that's very important, what you said.
Preach, Leo, preach.
So what other trends do you see? I mean, obviously blockchain is something that has existed for quite a while now. But how do you think we as African developers can position ourselves to be more efficient blockchain programmers, or to develop, to solve problems around blockchain technology?
Wow. The thing with blockchain technology is that it provides what you can call not sustainability. Give me a word.
Transparency and accountability.
Yeah, accountability, exactly. So with this technology, it can allow us to venture into some of the more rather shady market, not shady but shaky markets, markets where there's questions about responsibility and how you can work with the data and how you can maintain, and even accountability in terms of finances and all of this. And coming into Africa right now, when we're developing, this is when you need to build strong foundations. Maybe when you're building financial services, when you're building medical services where data is very private, and there's laws against how you can use it and how you cannot use it and how you can tweak it. With blockchain technology, I feel like it can provide us as Africans and as a developing continent rather, when we are building new systems. With blockchain, we can be able to build systems with a strong foundation. It's not like the other countries where they are already developed and now they are changing their systems to adapt blockchain to increase their functionality. For us, we have the opportunity to use it when we are starting out. And when we build services like maybe monetary services, or we have payment systems and all of these with blockchain, we are building things that are sustainable, things that can last for long, and things that can even now not just work on a person-to-person level, whichever way you can call it. They can be used even on corporate levels. When you're building big companies, build them on blockchain. It's a sustainable business model for the company. It will keep it going. And even on a personal level, for users, for the consumer level, that's the word I was looking for. Consumer level, Even on consumer level, I think blockchain is the way to go.
Definitely. And I think, as a developer, blockchain programming or engineering is something I'd be interested to sort of get into in 2019. Especially because there are a lot of programs currently in Nairobi that are teaching developers how to program, but with blockchain as a focal point. So you'll have companies like webhive.io that are giving out scholarships to study in Strathmore, attending like a 2-day boot camp where you can actually use Python, C++, and Golang to program with blockchain. So I think just having that problem-solving mindset as a developer naturally is going to really help us in 2019. It's okay, to try out a few apps. If it's for you, it's for you. I don't think you have to sort of force-feed every single application that you develop to have some form of blockchain. But it's something that we definitely cannot leave out. I was at an event yesterday, and someone was saying that Africa missed out on the internet revolution in the 90s, when companies like Microsoft and Amazon are literally coming up just out after the .com bubble burst happened. There are companies even up to today in Africa that still don't have websites, that still have no form of digital presence. And here we are talking about blockchain. So, I think the question to us as developers and as business owners or as companies is, do we want to also be left out of the blockchain revolution? 20 years from now, if your company doesn't have some form of ledger system or accountability, transparency system, are you really building a company for the future? I think that's something that we need to think about.
I feel like at the moment, we can no longer say that as Africans, do we want to be left out? I think it's no longer an option. Like we were saying, like Leo was saying actually, like we are no longer limited by the resources of our nation. We can access all of this information. It's global, it's internet. So at this point, saying that Africa is missing out on the internet revolution, is really not a point, because at the end of the day, this is the point where we can say it's ignorance.
Yeah.
Because you know it, it's out there, you can learn it.
Coming in on that, and this is the beautiful thing about life and opportunity.
Yeah.
Permit me to do this, right?
Yeah.
It's a tech. I want to use 2 examples and then swing them back into tech. So, in the Bible, there's a story. I'm using it just as a story to give an example. So, there's a story of a prophet who was prophesying, and he said that by this time Israel had been surrounded by armies that had made sure that there was a famine and starvation in the city, and people were dying and eating their own young. So a prophet said, by this time tomorrow, there'll be so much food that it will be almost worthless.
Yeah.
So, and then the story jumps to a bunch of lepers sitting at the gate, and they make a decision by themselves, okay? And they say that if we go back into the city, we will starve. These guys, the surrounding armies, they will kill us. But let's just go. You never know what we will find. So as they were walking, confusion came into the camp of the enemy, and they assumed that Israel had spoken to the king of another country to come and help them, and so the enemy ran off. So these lepers come in and find the camp abandoned. And then they get into one tent, take all the gold they want, hide it. Get the second tent, they do that a couple of times, then they're like, no, it's a sin to do this alone, while Israel, let's go tell the guys the good news. So they go and tell the Israelites in the city the good news, and they come out and everybody gets food. And the amazing thing about that story is this, right? The people who actually brought the change weren't many, there were few.
Yeah.
And there are people who took a step. They weren't knowledgeable in warfare.
Yeah.
They weren't equipped to handle an army. They're just 2 people who knew nothing about politics and nothing about negotiation, said to themselves that staying in the current place isn't good enough. I'd rather step out into the unknown and see what I might find.
Amen.
They didn't need to convince anybody.
Yeah.
And then I want to bring it back. A few years ago, Dubai was a desert.
Yeah.
And so this prince, the king, it's an emirate, so it's I forgot the title, but
Sheikh?
Sheikh, yeah. So he says, you know what, oil is gonna run out, but I need to create a city. And he creates a city that beats the cities that were created before. And the reason he could do that is because he had just a clean slate of sand. So he could have looked at that sand and said, I have such a long way to go competing with all the cities that have been there for thousands of years. Or he could look at this and say, no, I'm not going to start from where they started. I'm going to start from where they are at now.
Yeah.
And so he used the latest materials, the latest designs, the latest structures to build a modern city that rivals them. Because they have to deal with the constraints of old technology. They have to have a budget for restructuring old technologies that they invested a lot of money in.
Yeah.
And that takes time.
Yeah.
Now, here's where Africa is. You get? We have a clean slate of sand where people look and say, we are not like the people who did it before.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing is we are not like the people who did it before. We have the capacity to start from the cutting edge of technology and use that to build an infrastructure. We don't have budgets for reconfiguring all technologies because we don't have none. You get what I'm saying? And it will not take a lot of people. It will take few people who look at it and get into the unknown, and they are going to be pioneers, and they will capitalize and have monopolies, where years later we'll be fighting politically and saying, no, we need to share the wealth. But they will be the ones who will do it for everybody. It really takes, what's the word? Consensus. It really takes consensus. It takes mavericks. It takes, last story, it takes John Rockefeller being denied transportation by the railroads because they had a tiff, looking at how oil was being moved in the factory and say, you know what? I don't need a railroad anymore. I'm going to build these pipelines across the country and move my oil that way. And it was like, wow. And right now, you don't think of moving oil any other way. It's a pipeline. Everybody uses it.
Yeah.
But it took him doing something that everybody thought was crazy. So it's the crazies who probably don't know a line of code, but have found out about this blockchain, and they're like, you know what? I'm going to learn how to do this blockchain. And they're going to make many mistakes, but at the end of it, they will do things that will move. And I think we should be a part of that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I think that when you speak about blockchain, Leo, do you think that it will face, of course it will face some opposition, but you know, in a country like Kenya, where let's say in a field like land ownership, where it's so controversial in Kenya, do you think that the cartels, in quotes, are going to fight something like blockchain or something like a bank where, you know...
I get your question. And it's a really good question. And the thing about change and technology is it's unapologetically brutal.
Yes.
And it requires no permission from the former way of doing things. And let me tell you like this. Look at the taxis and Uber.
There was some opposition. There was some opposition.
Yes,
some taxis were being banned.
But ultimately,
it's taken over, and taxis have joined the application.
Here's what I'm saying. If, for example, assuming that somebody was to build a blockchain, on a blockchain system, all the law firms get on this platform and communicate with each other, because they're the ones who suffer the most, and their clients are the ones who suffer the most because of fraudulent documents. But all documents, most of them must be processed by law firms. So if all the law firms got on that platform and were processing each other's documents, it will reach critical mass where the amount of documents having been processed by the law firms is enough. It's enough for a database that can exclude the government database, and it will be more reliable. And you will no longer need the database of the government, because you will realize there is fraud. But if I go to these law firms, they will tell me that this title deed is registered to Victor. The blockchain technology will not allow that duplicate title deed to be registered to somebody else. So then, you do not need permission from the government. You've done it all by your own, and this one is reliable. Everybody trusts it, and at the end of it, they will have no choice. So either they will use this technology, or they will perish. So the thing is, when a new technology comes in, it creates its own space. It is self-reliant. It needs no permission, and most of the fight back has nothing to do with the technology. For example, the Uber situation. The taxi guys were banning Ubers. But that did nothing to them. They did not create a virus to infect the Uber application, so that they were banning some taxis. And at the end of the day, they would protest for 3 days. And in those 3 days, there were 50 people who bought new taxis, and they're putting them on Uber. You get what I'm saying? And they would have banned 10. Simple. And people who use Uber will still use Uber. They will still call it up. They will still use their smartphone, because it was a better way of doing transportation. You cannot go back after having sent an email to snail mail. You get what I'm saying? After having talked to somebody on a mobile phone, you're not going to go get a landline. Or write a letter. Or get a pen pal. After being on Facebook, you now say, okay, no, let's get out of Facebook. Okay, we become pen pals. They're your friends of it. So then you write 300 letters, and then you stamp them, and you wait. No. Once the new technology comes, you cannot take it away.
And I think that's a very good point. If you don't evolve, you die. And technology is a very detrimental part of our society right now. And I think that Me coming into technology this year, it's opened my eyes so much on things that I wanted to do. And I think that going into next year, I'll probably look into especially data. I don't know why my heart is just in data science, but I think that data science is one of those things that I'll have to look into. And I'm also starting to teach myself with online resources, basically YouTube. I found Datacamp, Udemy, and a few other resources, and UI UX specifically, because I find that, like you said, I think it's you, Victor, who said in our earlier discussion that it's so hard to debug front end.
Then it is back end.
Exactly, and there's no even Stack Overflow for front end.
Yeah.
So if anyone out there wants to create a Stack Overflow for front end, please look into that into 2019. Exactly, it's an opportunity that you can look into. Yeah.
And speaking of data science, and maybe artificial intelligence, and machine learning, and all these trends we're seeing in 2019. I was at an interview a few days ago, and one of the questions I was asked is, if you have a database of 30,000 developers, how would you use artificial intelligence to match them to 100 clients, for example? So a client calls you on Monday and they want 5 people to interview by Friday. Obviously, you can't choose targeted ads on social media. It could work, but it's just not effective in matching or getting the right quality that the client is looking for. So what's your view on using data-driven decision making in 2019, and how can small businesses, especially those that are they're capturing data but they're not really analyzing it effectively to be able to manage their costs or to be more profitable? What advice, or what's your take on data in 2019, whether that's in terms of machine learning or artificial intelligence or
I think I talked about this in our last podcast, the last one that
episode
was episode 1.
We'll leave the link below.
Okay. Yeah. So the thing I said is that data is what decides what's going to be. Yeah. Like if you need to create a product for the industry, what you need is data. You need, what do these people need? What do these people want? What is missing in the industry? And all this is achieved via collecting data, getting out there, gathering data. And so at the end of the day, the more data you have, the more opportunities you have to use technology to solve problems in the society. Because technology will rely on this data to actually work. So the question about data, I think last time I termed data as the biggest technological movement in Africa at the moment, because it is with data that we can advance as a society, as a continent. So the point of small businesses coming into the industry right now, I feel like they should definitely focus so much on how they gather data, on how they utilize it, or not utilize, rather analyze it, and then utilize the findings that they find out of data. Because data at the end of the day is what will direct you in the right direction. Data will tell you, don't build this car like this. Build it like this. This is the way the trends are. You can only achieve this via data. So data science, like you're saying, coming into 2019, because I believe that's the point of the talk. Coming into 2019, we've already talked about iOS being a key thing that you should learn. The next issue definitely people should consider is data science. Because right up there, data science, it's the art of building technology. You can say that. Because it's with data science that we build awesome technology. Even blockchain itself, it rides on data. At the end of the day, it's data being added into the chain. It's called the ledgers. It's data. Data is what powers blockchain. Data is what powers innovation. Data is what is powering technology.
So data is
everything. Data is the currency.
And to continue on this, praise we're singing heaping on data. The beautiful thing about data is absolutely objective. It is not politically aligned. It doesn't have tribal inclinations. All the things that affect Africa.
Or humans.
Humans. True humans, but I have a passion for Africa, so I see Africa. But yes, all humans are affected by this. All humans are tribal and stuff. But the reason why I love data is data tells you as it is. You get it? So if we make our societies data driven, I believe we'll solve
so many, especially in Kenya. If you see like let's say a rainy season like this, there's always floods. Every other year the roads go bad, and I don't know if it's our decision makers up there who are not making the right decisions, or they don't have the data to actually take charge of these catastrophes, these disasters, hunger, guys, farming, in any field that I think data is so important, and especially for our decision makers, our governments. I think that they should take into consideration how data can help us to build a better society.
It's true.
I think the way when you were talking about technology and how it's unapologetic, I was thinking to myself that the reason technology will always force people to conform to it is because technology serves the people. It does not serve a small community of politicians making decisions. It does not serve, it serves the people. And at the end of the day, the people are the ones being affected by these decisions. So the decisions that they make for themselves will always be in their best interest. So in this line, you can agree that technology serves the best interest of the people. And in so doing, you can say like it's the ultimate government because it's always right. It knows what people want. And in line to this, you can say that with data, when you collect data about people and data about what people need and data about what people want, then this data will be used to create technology that is unapologetically brutal.
But it's unfortunate.
And to add on to that, and that's the thing, it started the question with a small company. How do they use data? What impact do they have on by using data? That's the thing, because as a company, you're entering into business because, and that's the thing about capitalism, you enter into business because you are offering a product that you want somebody to spend or to value it at a particular price. They're placing a value on what you're offering. Now, if you come and you offer a product based on data that is there to serve people, so you're offering a solution that is purely driven not on your own bias, not on your own small, circle of friends. You're offering something that it's been analyzed. This is a solution for a particular problem ailing society. You very quickly move from becoming a small company to a big company. Very quickly, if you master utilization of data, that is one of the biggest drivers of a company. That's one of the biggest drivers, because once you master how to analyze and use data, what you're actually doing is tapping directly to the root of your people, and they're telling you things subconsciously that the computer captures. You get? They might not, people can lie, people can hide, people can be embarrassed, people cannot say the problem, but you can never lie to the computer or to technology. How you interact with it, you will always say the truth. So basically, you have an ear to the person's inner true wishes. And you're tapping into it and you're saying, that person is communicating, this is what I want. You've analyzed it and you've packaged a solution, and you're communicating the same solution through the data driven, and you're telling him exactly what he wants to hear about the solution. Tell me, where is the failure? Failure rate becomes almost nil. People will always respond to you positively because you're data driven.
Exactly.
And I mean, it just brings me to the point of also employability in 2019. So for example, if you're using data, technology or artificial intelligence, for example, to hire people, at what point does data become so unbiased that it's actually a disadvantage? Because everything has a strength and weakness. I would say I can learn so much more about Victor or Leo or Michelle by speaking to them for even 30 minutes, that rather than looking at how they perform at a technical test or their resume, So at what point does data not capture the soft skills of someone? I know companies such as shortlist, and even some schools such as Imperial College London make you record a 30-minute video clip of explaining. It's kind of like your personal statement, but in video format, and it's about 15 to 30 minutes. Shortlist will make you record an audio of why you're a good match or a good fit for the role, as opposed to writing a cover letter. So those are very interesting ways to sort of capture the soft skills of people or how they communicate. But at what point do we become too objective that it's not actually empathic? Because I think creativity is a good skill. Being able to communicate is also a good skill. Kindness and warmth, those are skills that are very important for team dynamics. And I was reading an article somewhere that said that, this whole debate about being junior and being a senior developer, that you should not call yourself a junior developer. You should call yourself an apprentice, right? So you'll find that some people are senior developers based on their years of experience or their technical ability, but whenever they're tasked with a project or some technical requirements, they end up straying too far out of the scope because they're so interested in the technicality and building something. But you're working at a company, you have clients who are expecting you to meet deadlines. So at what point... do you get the point of trying to...
Yes.
How do we balance those skills as developers? And then also to recruiters, how do you think they can best test both sort of the hard side, the hard skills, and then the soft skills?
Yes.
Are they necessary?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me take a crack at that. I think when it comes to hiring somebody for your team, one thing we touched on is analyzing data, but you need to properly analyze something. You need to place its value in the hierarchy of decision making. So when it comes to hiring somebody, you cannot, as of yet, determine whether this person, even if you aren't using AI, determine whether this person is a fit without interacting with them. Because human interactions go beyond written word or what somebody has done. Okay? As people, you've met somebody and you've just clicked. Or somebody you just don't like. They've never insulted you. Yeah. They've never really... But there's something about them that just doesn't...
Energy.
Yeah. You can bring somebody into a group dynamic and the whole group just
changes,
evolves into something totally different, and you don't know why. You see, such certain things, I don't want to say you can't track, because if you give enough net of data, you can track, and the AI can assess that every team this guy has joined has broken up in 3 months. So yes, you can keep track. There's a way you can keep track, but I wouldn't rely on it. I wouldn't rely on it as 100%. It's just the AI picks a team and that will automatically function. No. There needs to be somebody who analyzes and has the capacity to put value.
Yeah.
My thing with data was mostly on the product end. When it comes to hiring, I'm not in HR, so I'm not a HR person. But I will try to wear their shoes a bit and try to say that you have a company culture that has been built and crafted. And what you want to do, your company culture and ethos is based on what you as a company want to accomplish. So what you want to do is have your employees or people you've hired internalize the company culture and then, flow with it. So you want to hire people who have the capacity to internalize that company culture. So for example, if you work in a lax place, at the interview, you wouldn't want such a stiff neck. Or if you have like a law firm where you need suits every day, a business kind of thing, you kind of don't want somebody who comes for an interview with a t-shirt.
Right.
So those things, yes, you can plot them in data, given a wide net data can say like Google probably knows everything about you and stuff like that. True. But in terms of the interpersonal dynamics and stuff like that, there's a person who told me they care, yes, they look at competency, but one of the things they care most is attitude. A lot of people say that.
Yeah.
A lot of, especially guys who've made it, big people who hire, they say, Bill Gates, there's one time he said, I hire the lazy person because the lazy person will find the quickest way how to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those are things he's studied about people that to him makes sense, but to another person saying, no, I want a hardworking person. And both of them are equally big in their fields and they've made it because they've done something right, but they have two different perspectives. You see, when it comes to hiring people and having a team, there is no perfect way because each team is different depending on the dynamics of the people around it and the leader and what they want and how this leader requires this kind of personalities to bring the best out of them, while this other one requires this kind of personality. So such things you require a hands-on, but to filter, like you have 10,000 applications, to filter, AI can come very close to bringing you a percentage, because they'll say this guy has a 98% likelihood of fitting in your organization, for example, because there's always a margin of error.
Yes.
So you can filter and say, just bring up people who have a 98% of fitting in the need, and then from there, you now make the personal decision. You bring in-person interview and you make a personal, which it has helped a lot because before you just had something written, you don't know who's written it. It could be a friend, because when you write something, your personality is communicated. So if a friend has written for you a cover letter, that person's personality is communicated.
Yeah.
And so you get, this person sounds fun, come, and the person sort of this. But you see, AI can look at this, look at Facebook postings, match this person isn't likely the one who wrote this, and then get the characteristics of the person who, so AI can do a lot of things that a person can. Yeah. Maybe in a filter, but to actually say that this person 100% would be a good fit, I don't think AI has gotten there right yet. You need to have somebody to analyze the data, because at the end of the day, the first thing you're taught about comms is Gigo.
And this is scary, man. This is scary. AI looking at my social media. Wow. So I think on the hiring part, can you say that we can use our social media to like showcase our skill set?
Definitely.
Yes.
And that brings me to my next point of with all the machines sort of deciding who gets the job and who doesn't, what can you best do as a developer besides being a really good coder or being a really good problem solver? Because that then becomes fundamental. If someone says you need to understand Python or Java or whatever, then it must be that it's not even about being the best coder. You must strive to be a really good coder as a bare minimum.
Yes.
What more can you then do? I think that's where personal branding is really important.
Yeah.
So using social media to, for example, tweet about your interests in technology, using social media to, for example, LinkedIn. It is social media, but in a more professional context. So recruiters are always looking at LinkedIn. They actually use this thing called a LinkedIn Boolean search, whereby if they're looking for 5 years experience, again, that's debatable, they'll just filter. So even though you lie on your resume, if that does not pop up on your LinkedIn that you actually have 5 years of experience, you won't even be considered, right? So, but using LinkedIn to, network or to ask questions or to connect with industry peers. And in the point of networking as well, what more can you do besides being a good developer?
Yeah.
Attending forums, attending talks and workshops. If you're on a budget, there's so many free talks, right? But then also not just sitting there and not asking questions, but making it a point to actually go and ask questions to the speakers, or to even just look who sat beside you. You never know, that could be your next business partner, could be your next employee, your next employer, your next friend. You never know. I mean, I think there's so much more you can do. One thing that a non-tech person told me this year, they're actually a musician. And they've always been interested in coding, but as you know it, procrastination and all these other factors come into life. And he's in his mid-30s, but he's a really good musician. And he was saying that one of his sort of dreams is to develop a software, kind of like Logic Pro or GarageBand, but one that actually considers African beats in mind. So you find that Logic Pro, GarageBand, none of these, because they're made by Westerners, and they have their own sort of music score and how they write music and how they record music. So when it comes to things like Afrobeats or just African tempos and the drum beat, there's really nothing out there. So he kept asking me, why haven't you guys thought of building that? You developers in Africa, what do you build? I mean, and I couldn't help but think, wow, what developer out there is actually making it a point to go to Ongea Music Festival?
Yeah.
We'd rather go to iHub or Nairobi Garage or all these tech talks, but are we actually making it a point to go to step into
another industry? Yeah.
Exactly, waters that we've never swum in before. Like, how about you attend a Coke Studio Film Festival and see what problems are there in the film industry, and how can I, as a developer, find solutions to that? Or attend a bakery expo, right? What problems do bakers have in terms of delivering fresh organic cakes? What problems do people who sell vegetables at farm markets, what problems, and how can I use technology? How can I be a developer actually developing African problems? Visiting a hospital, for example, just trying to conduct market research. I think the onus is on us to also try and attend or network in places that are not tech focused, because we end up in this ivory tower, in this cocoon, in this sort of revolving door of just tech, but not really using tech for good.
Yeah, you need to go outside.
In terms of employability, that's something I would urge all of us as developers to consider.
Yeah, that's true. And the thing about it is, it's unfair, but that's the world. With the large population, more competition. It's not enough to just be a coder. The cliche is now less and less true, where coders don't talk, they don't, they just sit to themselves and they can be rude and they can be this. It's no longer like that, because you have somebody who has amazing soft skills who's also coding. And they're not few.
They're very many.
There are many.
Actually, coders nowadays are intentionally learning soft skills to fit to the industry.
We here, all of us are coders, and all of us are talking on a podcast. You get what I'm saying? We're not like in a cocoon, just like in the dark, just hacking on our keyboard. Yeah, just like blah, blah, blah. So the thing is, that's number one. The most interesting thing I've heard you say right now, like that jumped at me. We provide solutions. So you're right. At least I have not done any of the things you said, and that is where solutions are seen. That is where you see the holes to build solutions. So you've said something very critical. Moving into 2019, the people who want, not everybody wants to be employed. The people who want to be, freelancing. They want to be entrepreneurs and build a tech startup. How do you do it? You go to different events, different environments, and look like a software engineer. You critically analyze it and you see, I can do this better. I can do this faster. And that's a very, very good advice. Even me, just told me that when you said it jumped at me, and I'm like, my goodness, that is so true. Because that is why you will see a need. Because we can't have, there's so many blogs. Us tech guys, we'll build tech things. We build a blog. Like what we said, Stack Overflow for
you. That is important.
That is important, true. But then bakers also need solutions. A guy went and looked at the way taxis are doing and said, no,
I need Uber.
Yeah.
It brings me back to the event Melissa and I attended the other day at Safaricom Talks, and this guy that I don't know, the one who were building a system for education.
Ikitabu, Tony Ndungu.
Yeah, they were saying that they built their book twice, failing miserably. The reason is they were approaching it as developers, like how can we best teach? But they were not teaching; they were writing code to teach. But it is until they realized that they needed to understand the needs the students have. They needed to actually go to the people they are selling this product for, they are making this product for, so they can understand how do you want this thing to be made, why do you want this thing to be made, and how can we best deliver it.
But that's a process in creating a project, market research.
I know it is, but it is not what developers have most developers when they're getting into development, they want to be like, I want to be me on my laptop doing my thing, writing code.
But also another thing, just sorry to jump in.
Okay.
That's not market research.
That's market research.
Not necessarily.
Market research is you have a predetermined thing and you're gauging the market to the response of what you are building.
Yeah.
Right? So you have a survey, you go and you ask questions, and then you tell them, can you use this? What he's saying is from ground up, having no assumptions whatsoever what somebody needs. First, learning how it is to be them. Then coming back
and creating
and creating an idea, and then now doing it. In other words, it's
also this kind of like method acting.
That's what I was coming around to the point that they were saying that, and Melissa, that you actually need to go to where these people are, not to do market research, to understand them, to understand their problems, their pain points, to actually even to locate the gaps in the society. You know, you might go to a market saying, I want to build this product, but then you realize it's actually not the problem. And if you conducted a market research on the matter, you would have created a Google form or a survey, and you'd be like, do you want this? Do you want that? How can I fix this? And of course, they'll give you a perfect response because, you know, I want this thing done. Yes, it might be awesome. But maybe it's not the problem they have. Maybe it's a problem, but it's not the problem. What you need to understand, the problem that they face, is to go to them and understand how they operate, their way of life, learn their culture. And that's how you'll actually build a program that, a product that actually solves a problem.
And you know, just to wrap up, you know, when you're speaking about being a culture fit, I think as employers, as recruiters, I would say in 2019, it would really help developers for you to be explicit about what you mean, because you find culture fit means old boys club. So when you're a woman in tech applying, you may not necessarily fit that culture. So how can, I mean, if maybe your company consists of people within a certain race or from a certain race, sometimes culture fit can also mean, oh, you're not from this country. So even though you're really good, that's why we're not taking you on. And I think also trying to give feedback to candidates when you've rejected them is very important. Because you'll find that, you know, you've gone through a sort of recruitment process, interview process, only for someone to tell you, oh, you know, the reason we're not taking you on is because you don't have a computer science degree. When you can't help but think all the resources I've spent practicing and coming to interview, if you had just told me that from the beginning, you and I could have saved time and money. So I think just more honesty is very important.
And this is key. Understand as a HR or hiring person, it is in your interest to add to the quality of the pool of the resource in which you're tapping. So, approaching it not so much as, I'm hiring people and then I'm firing people, but more so that people who come across me, I want them to be better. So next time I'm going to source from that pool, even the people who I've rejected because I cannot hire only 2 people, I have built it to some degree to the point that when I go back, I find it better because I have contributed to the growth of the pool in which I'm tapping the resource from. So when a developer comes, tell them where to work on. Tell them how to improve. Look at it as I am giving you this, so you are becoming better. So next time I am going to get from that resource, I find a better pool of people, and that's much, much more reasonable and forward-thinking and long-term thinking approach towards hiring than just like, you haven't met the cat, just go. No. Improve the quality of the candidate who hasn't made it, because next time he might be the only one applying because there is a shortage and you didn't improve him.
Imagine.
You get what I'm saying? So improve the quality of the resource in which you're tapping from.
Would you like to wrap up?
No. Today I'm more than inspired for 2019. So more than inspired. So look out for 2019. Go out there, look for resources that you can study in, and just be better. Be better for 2019 and create. If you're a developer out there, create solutions fit for your environment. Don't create something for you. But if it's for you, it's okay.
We'll definitely have more engaging episodes like this one.
Yes, come back in 2019.
If you know of any guests you'd like to hear from, let us know.
Yes.
But thank you so much. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Have a really good remainder of 2018. I would say.
Christmas.
See you again
Wishes
in
of Christmas.
2019. Thank you so much.
And our audience, have a nice Christmas and a
Yes.
new year. See you next year with a very long list of very, very good guests.
Yes. I can't wait for next year. My goodness, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Agnes. Yeah.
For waiting, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.